Welcome to the lectures on design thinking. In the previous lecture, we talked about the setting, the mindset for the design thinking process, the team composition, and the rules set that we need to set for the team. And once the team is set, once the mindset is understood by the team, the next activity is to start the activity. The first step in the design thinking process is the first phase rather is inspiration phase. Again, inspiration phase has two parts. One is exploration and second one is empathize. In this lecture we talk about the exploration phase, where we need to set the question that we want to explore. When it comes to the process of change, it can be observed in two dimensions. One is the users who are actually involved in that, and what is that is going to be offered to the users. If users is on one dimension and offerings on the other dimension, if you look at, then this can be divided into four types of processes, four types of changes. If you are offering the existing things for the existing users, then the change is only incremental, because the process is same existing and the users are also existing, only you are modifying the change. So it's incremental change, small change. Whereas if for the existing users, if you want to do new offerings, if you want to offer something new, or for the existing offerings, if it is to be offered for new users, that is, this process, the change, is described as an evolutionary change. Whereas if the user group is also new and the offering is also new, then it is called a revolutionary change. The revolutionary change can be described in a way with a small example that Henry Ford has in his words. He said, if I had asked the people what they wanted, they would have said they want faster horses, because at the point of time when Henry Ford has designed a vehicle which can move on its own with help of some kind of fuel, so by the time horses are the major source of mobility. So when at this juncture, if any innovator asks the people what do you want, then probably they might have said about the better horses or better positions, better mobility aspects based on the horses itself. But they can't imagine, the users cannot imagine what is going to come in future. So that is a revolutionary process. Henry Ford, whatever has done is a revolutionary process, and that doesn't come under design thinking. So design thinking is not for revolutionary processes, not for incremental processes, but it is for the evolutionary processes. So either the offering should be new to the existing users, or the existing processes or mechanisms should be applicable to the new users. Whenever these two things are involved, then design thinking comes into picture. So as a first step, let us identify the users for whom we are going to innovate. So user group identification is the first and foremost important step. And why it is important? Because whenever you want to do something, doing something by keeping the entire group or a larger group into consideration is not going to serve the purpose, because one model is not going to fit all. No. For example, even if you take a very simple case of designing a seat in a car, if you take the user groups in Japan, the average height is different, and if you take the user groups in USA or Europe, the average height of the person is different. So the legroom they require is different, and the cabin space, the height of the seat and the shape of the seat should vary. It's not going to same size or same shape is not going to fit for all. So it's a very simple case. Like that, we need to identify the target group for which you are going to do something or design something. So the goal of the design thinking is not to create one size to fit for all. No. So it should be very specific to which user group you want to do something. And we need to identify specific and meaningful target users. mere demographic locations is not going to serve the purpose. No. Again, their behaviors, their beliefs, their experiences are going to decide which group you want to target for the particular question. So to start with the users, we need to understand their community also, in which community they belong to, or a combination of communities they belongs to, and the services that they are going to be offered is also very important. And at large, what are the institutional constraints that they are facing, like legal or communal or whatever. So we need to look at the user group in 4 levels, starting from the user group, the particular user group, and the community level, and services level, and at large institutional level. Once we identify the correct user group, then we can go much deeper into the understanding of the user groups to set the questions which is going to solve the problem. So once the users are being identified, the next thing is to set a question that answers their problems. We need to pose a question by answering which we should be able to solve their problems. How do we set the question is a big exercise, in fact. And the question should be very crisp, clear, actionable, and with a time frame, solvable in a time frame. So all these qualities should be there to that question. So it itself is a big exercise now. And to frame the questions, we need to understand the problems of the end users. We need to have a clear understanding of the entire ecosystem that governs the users, as we have seen the community as the larger group of institution level, all these things. We have to understand the ecosystem. That is going to give a clear understanding of what is to be solved, how it is to be solved. And the challenges that you are going to face, actually, they are going to give an insight, sometimes as a direction, for example, to solve the problem itself. So the ability to convert those challenges into opportunities is a major issue here. So we need to address the challenges. What are the challenges that we're going to solve during this process? Your question should address all these things. It should involve all these components, but it should be very precise. One more important feature is that the question should be in such a way that there should exist multiple solutions, possibility of having multiple solutions. Why? Because if the question is very tight and the answer is straightforward, then there's no point in innovating. The answer is known, clear. So yeah, there should be multiple opportunities, multiple directions to explore with respect to the question. That question should be set in such a way. And time frame is also very important. If it is taking, for example, if I say, I put a question like how to solve the poverty in India. Yeah, it's a good question. But what is the time frame? So mere crisp setting of the question is not going to solve the problem. It should be actionable. It should have a time frame. Then only we can finish off the activity in a specific time. And the best designs are born out of tough constraints. When the constraints are tough, the solutions should also be very beautiful, can also be very beautiful. And so obviously the budget that we are going to deal with, the team, and material resources, and the timeline, these are all 4 aspects of the question that we are going to pose. We have to take care of all these aspects while framing the question. The importance of the question is emphasized by the Albert Einstein statement that if I had an hour to solve a problem in my lifetime, and if it is going to solve my all worries in the life, then I'll spend 55 minutes on framing the question itself. The remaining 5 minutes can be used to solve the problem. So that itself sounds the importance of the framing of the question. So we need to focus in the second step of this. We need to focus on how to frame the question in a precise manner. Once the members of the team agree on a particular problem to deal with or to attack with, once they have some concrete idea on the problem that they are going to attempt to solve, first they need to sit together and discuss the intricacies of the problem that they want to solve, and then individually they need to answer a set of questions, so that that gives an insight into the various thought processes that goes into the problem, like who are the user groups, and what are the problems or struggles that they're undergoing, the users are undergoing, and how we can solve it. In your words, at least everyone should have the thought process, and everyone should put it on paper, possible solutions for such questions. So what are the struggles of the users, and how we could solve them? And is there any scope for multiple solutions? Is also, if at all multiple solutions are possible, what could be the directions in which we can solve them? So we can mention the directions if it requires specific directions. And the next thing is it how much time frame is required to solve this, in your opinion, again individually? And we need to assess whether the question is too broad or too narrow or just enough. So kind of understanding should be there with respect to the question. And what is your understanding of the challenges, and what do you know about the problems or challenges that they're facing? What is a prior knowledge that you have, or a similar kind of knowledge that you have regarding such kind of problems? And what is that you don't know is also to be identified. So once you have a clear understanding of what you know and what you don't know, then we can set a path from known to unknown. We can have travels from known to unknown. And what could be the possible solution? Can you visualize the possible solution, or at least the solution that you think may be visualized? So these are some of the suggestive questions, and you are free to add some more questions. Depends on the problem that you take up, and everyone should put it on paper, write something with regard to each and every aspect of these questions, and they should again come back, sit together, and brainstorm with respect to the questions that we are posing. And we need to identify the commonalities. The group should be able to identify the common issues and common items in these questions, and they should be able to consolidate them. So at the end of the session, after going through this process, they can finalize for each of the aspects. They can finalize the content items, and they can put it on post-it notes in the common area where they are going to meet repeatedly, so that is going to set the setting for the future actions. And ultimately, once the such brainstorming is over, a clarity should be there on three issues. One is, what is a problem that we are going to attack, and what is the context around that problem, a clear understanding of the context in terms of environment, in terms of the community, in terms of the overall situation, and what is the user perspective, what are the various user perspectives that may be required to solve the problem. So a clear understanding of these things are supposed to be obtained at the end of the session. Basically, the phase itself is an exploratory in nature. So this is a divergent phase. We keep on diverge onto several aspects of the problems. We keep on diverge onto identify the several perspectives of the problem that we are going to tackle, several user groups. So in every direction, we will try to diverge as much as possible, so that we can converge to a particular single point focus. So before converging onto the single point focus, we need to diverge as much as possible, and that's how we can go into the nook and corner of the problem, search for the possible directions. So basically, this is a divergent phase. We should get inspired by the people, we should get inspired by the situations, we should be able to get inspired by the problems that we're going to solve. So this is the inspiration phase and exploration phase. That is why the name suggested as exploration. We need to explore various possibilities. So it is characterized by exploration, a bit of ambiguity as well. So getting a clear picture may not be possible right away, but we should gather as much information as possible. And it is now time has come for us to pinpointedly identify the statement. So we should fix a crisp and actionable statement that captures the entire essence and deliverables should also be very clear from the statement. Again, to write the sentence, we can use one method called a perspective matrix, where you first identify, the group should identify the all possible perspectives of the problem, list out all the perspectives, depending on the number may depend on the problem, of course. Here it's only a suggestive matrix is given here. You can list out your own set of perspectives, and your question should be able to answer, provide solutions with respect to each of the perspective. So we need to restrict ourselves to a set of perspectives with respect to which you are going to solve the problem. Here I would like to give 3 examples of real-time design thinking problems that are being solved to have an understanding of how things have unfolded. In the first case, GE Healthcare product has come up with Dow Diz has observed that 80% of the children that are supposed to undergo the MRI scanning are need to be sedated because they're getting fear to face that to go to that machine. So then he concentrated on the design problem, took it as a design problem, and applied the design principles, and he has came up with a design that you are observing in this picture, that he converted the entire scenario of that MRI scanning into a very playful action, and as a result it has reduced it to only 1%. Previously it used to be 80% of children are to be get sedated, but after this only rarely 1% of the children are being sedated, and remaining children are accepting, are feeling it like a playful act to face it. This is one example. And the second one is again a human-centered design thinking approach has been applied at the MIT D Lab, where prosthetic assistive devices, though they are not new, but again they have applied the design thinking principles. And what they observed is in a particular section of the people, they observed that though prosthetic assisted devices are there, they are not conducive to all possible postures of sitting. So in a particular section of people, sitting cross-legged is a habit, and the existing scenario is not allowing them to sit like that. So they have applied the design thinking principles, and they have come up with a novel design of that device and successfully demonstrated using design thinking principles that they have devised a new mechanism, a new prosthetic device. Uber Eats also has successfully applied the concepts of design thinking to revamp its network of Uber Eats, so that all the customer needs are satisfied and customer services are fruitful, and satisfaction levels are very high with respect to the customer usage. Now, for the sake of practice, here I would like to give some set of questions and practice, so that the entire group can go through the process that we have described so far with respect to each of the questions. Take the shopping mall example here. Usually parents come for shopping, and kids will accompany. And with respect to the kids, the questions are framed. How the kids' energy can be used to entertain the fellow shoppers at the shopping mall is one question. And how might we is a question that we face. How might we is a phrase that we use. And how might we make the wait the most exciting part of the shopping at the shopping mall if one partner is shopping and the another one is waiting? So how do you make that waiting as a more exciting feature? And how might we entirely remove the waiting time at all in the shopping mall? And how might we make the rush refreshing instead of having at the shopping mall? That's another question. How might we make the shopping mall like a park or like a playground? How might we make the shopping mall a place that kids wants to go? And how might we entertain kids and modify delayed billing processes? If you look at the questions, though they are revolving around the kids and the shopping mall and the shopping experience, each question has its own outcome, a very crisp and clear outcome. So not all questions are equal to one another. Maybe they are overlapping, but each one of them had their own perspectives to deal with. And the user groups, parents are there, shopkeepers, and administration of the shopping mall, and the kids, all all these groups comes into picture. So to start with, you try to concentrate on each one of the questions and go through the practice sessions of brainstorming sessions within the group, and try to come up your own framing of the statements. These statements may not be perfect. You may come up with more accurate statements than this, and you may be able to identify all the facets of the problem. Again, as a practice, you can also think of certain other problems, related to other domains as well. The first one is, take any phone of your choice and concentrate on the navigation features of the phone. How can we make them more user friendly? And that's one aspect. Similarly, if you go for one online shopping portal, you choose any one of them, and you how to design the online shopping process to be more attractive, so that digitally uneducated or less educated customers can also happily navigate through. That is another one. Similarly, can we design a fan that makes no noise? Another question. Again, I am not saying that these are a perfect design thinking questions. Just you focus and try to modify them into a suitable design thinking problem questions. That's just these are all starters. Treat them as starters. And can we design a seating in a car that is more relaxing, so that the users can feel more relaxing in the Indian context? Okay, so such problems, you can take up any of these problems and you can concentrate on this, and come up with a practice session on your own, and try to come up with a good exercise.